I couldn't agree more, Jess. Very good weather for ducks. Unfortunately, it's wet here on the Gold Coast. Matt Nolte, when we think about Surfers Paradise, we think blue skies, sunny, weather and beautiful beaches, but unfortunately a little bit of rain out there for our Cams Jayco Formula 4 drivers to contend with. But when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you don't care about that. You just want to go racing your Formula 4 car.
Chad, I think it's high tide. It's come running over the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit this morning. Good morning to you and good morning, everybody. This is going to be an incredible day of racing here on the streets of Surfers Paradise, but we've got a series on the line for these guys, these young guys out there today, and look at these conditions.
So Race Control has elected to give these young drivers an extra formation lap to do two things. One, give them a chance to see this circuit, also get some heat into these tyres. It's a very soggy good morning to Cameron Vandendungen down there in the lane. I imagine you'll be getting some wet socks today, but looking forward to a big day, Cameron.
Yeah, unfortunately still running the dry setup on my shoes, so it could be a slippery day for me down here. But guys, I had a chat with a couple of the driver coaches. A lot of these young drivers do have driver coaches as part of the team, and said, what's the advice today? And the same word came out of all of their mouths, and it was just finish. That's all you got to do, just finish this race.
Well, like Matt alluded to earlier, we do have a championship battle well and truly alive. Nick Rowe, who'll start on the front row from pole position, leads the way, and if he finishes ahead of Cameron Shields, he will have over 50 points. Well, that's getting a little bit close down there at turn 11 between a couple of teammates. So Rowe leads the way, 52 points ahead of Shields. The scenario here, Matt, is very simple. If he finishes ahead of Cameron Shields in this race, he will be the champion-elect for 2017.
The pressure will be off, but there's so much pressure coming up in this next 11 laps around Surfers Paradise. Those conditions on the main straight then were absolutely treacherous going down into turn number 1. It's going to be a kind of weather pattern we saw at Bathurst a couple of weeks ago. It's just going to hang around all day. It's not actually running too heavily out there at the moment, but it's just going to sit there for most of the day. But it's going to make the whole day exciting.
To make life even worse for Cameron Shields, the man who will be starting on pole position, just happens to love these conditions. It's Nick Rowe in his last event for Cams Jayco Formula 4 before he moves on, alongside Simon Fallon. Aaron Love, his best qualifying performance. He'll start inside row number 2 for BRM alongside his teammate Liam Lawson, just 15 years of age. Here's a Kiwi. We know how good Kiwis are in these conditions. Watch out for Cameron Shields, row number 3. One of our championship combatants this weekend. Mazzaroli and Murdoch were in the wars in qualifying. For Murdoch, he didn't even get a lap in, so it wasn't the best qualifying session for he. Riding on board with Ryan Sewell, who will be crowned our Burson Rookie of the Year award tomorrow night. Congratulations to him, and he'll be getting 20 grand off his lease for next year to compete once again in this championship. Liam Lawson, the youngest ever Formula Ford champion from New Zealand. How will he go in these conditions? We know what Richie Stanaway and Shane Van Gisbergen are like when it rains. But no one really knows what to expect here, because we don't see many wet races at all on this circuit. It's going to be extremely difficult. Chatting to some of these teams, they believe that all these painted lines, manhole covers, curbs will be very treacherous. You do not want to touch those with these wet Hankook tyres.
It's that curb on the chicane at the first corner on the outside, the one that hangs about 3 or 4 feet in from the wall. Very slippery. It's a flat black paint on there, but still slippery. When we walked over it this morning, even in sand shoes, you can slip up on it.
His 6th career pole for Nick Rowe yesterday. Can he convert that to a championship in race 1 and get the pressure off him in these tricky conditions? We enter the unknown Saturday morning at the Vodafone Gold Coast 600. 625 kilo race cars powered by turbo engines in wet, slippery conditions. And it's a good start. Simon Fallon, he puts the pressure straight onto Nick Rowe, covers him off before the first corner. Watch out for those painted lines down there at turn 1, and hold your breath. Lawson wisely goes across the chicane. Nick Rowe hangs on to 2nd. The BRM boys ganging up on him because Shields is a BRM driver, and they might be able to just keep him in the championship fight here by putting that pressure on Nick Rowe.
So Simon Fallon gets the advantage off the start here now, and will lead us down past the beach and towards the Virgin Australia chicane on lap number 1. This is what it's like from the driver's perspective. It's not too bad at the moment as he sneaks out for a bit of clear vision. Very treacherous around here. These curbs will be fatal if you get on them today.
So you not want to be leaning on those curbs too much on cold Hankook tyres, and Lawson's got a really good run. Putting the pressure on Nick Rowe. Here he comes down the inside at turn 11. Can he pull this car up? Great move for P2. And this is what we're talking about, these BRM drivers trying to bring Cameron Shields back into this championship fight. That's Shields in the McDonald's red and white BRM car, car 73. And at the moment, it's a BRM whitewash out there. just poor Nick Rowe, the sole AGI Sport guy, fighting away with all these BRM drivers.
Back to third position, but Simon Fallon, who we saw in the Toyota 86 Racing Series at Bathurst a couple of weeks ago, leads us through to complete lap number 1. Lawson second, Rowe in third, and Love completes the top 4.
Plenty of standing water on the front straight. Fallon's coming in way too hot. Was never going to stop that car down at the chicane. Now, it's okay to do that as long as you don't get an advantage. And Lawson off that big hump that we're talking about, touching the black paint and crack sideways at the exit of turn 3. Good car control to save that one.
It's in a big puddle at the bottom of that curve as well. They got caught out. So they go through turn 4. There's Shields in the red McDonald's, number 73. About a second behind the cars ahead. To work the backside of this Surfers Paradise Street Circuit once again. Tally the cars across the bumps there. The surface changes down at the end of this corner. You saw on the previous lap there how quick the cars twitch off that corner.
Lawson now close enough to have a crack at his teammate. We have seen some BRM action this year into team battles, and I think we've got one here because Fallon just overcooked it slightly at turn 11, trying some different lines in these wet conditions. Look at this from Lawson on the power early. Got momentum, but this is not the spot to make it stick. You'll have to be patient. Turns 14 and 15. Sets up the over-under. Gets on the power early, and he's got the overlap. He's got more than the overlap. He's got the lead. That was a cracking move. Liam Lawson, 15 years old and slipping to the lead in these conditions.
Born to be in the rain, wasn't he? Great pass off the final turn. He just made it stick, got better traction, and gets the lead by a car length now. On the run down to turn number 1. This is where the heaviest of the rain has fallen. As Fallon looks on the outside, won't do anything about it there.
Wow, he's confident as he goes through that big puddle you're talking about. He's like a young Scott Dixon out there at the moment.
Yes.
Great to see. Has been quick off the bat this year with 3 race wins already. Picked up the round win on debut at Sandown. Amazing effort for a 15-year-old. Talk about a bright future. We'll check out some replays at the start. Gee, Everingham may have even been rolling then looking at that. If he wasn't rolling, he was definitely the first to move. Left him vulnerable down at turn 1. Fallon got a cracking start from Lawson's point of view.
Oh, just about perfect, wasn't it? Minimal wheel spin off the line for Team BRM entry. The first 4, in fact, were braver going down into turn 1 than the rest of the field. It was visible from that aerial shot. You just don't know what's going on. There's standing water. You haven't done a fast lap around here. Just got to hope and pray. There's that puddle we talked about in turn number 1.
So that was the move for second down at turn 11. Instantly confident on these cold hand-cooked wet tyres. The same corner where we saw Scott McLaughlin backing it in down there last year.
I don't think he could have done it in these conditions, though. Would have been awesome. Watch the background here. It was bound to happen sooner or later. And Jordan Mazzaroli spins in car 61 and keeps it off the wall. So narrow, that part of the circuit.
Oh, wow. You wouldn't believe we're on the Gold Coast looking at that. Very rarely do we ever get rain for this weekend.
I thought this was a race, not the split splash, though.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man.
Well, that's just how slippery it is across the Virgin Australia chicane.
They're all competing for the best moment in the Virgin Australia chicane this weekend. This is incredible.
Just watching these drivers go around, guys, I had a chat to the Hankook representative because you can see the amount of water being pumped out by those different compound tyres. They actually use Z206s on the front and Z207s on the rear. And that's actually a very similar compound that was used in New Zealand in the Super Tourer Championship. And most drivers that drove on this wet weather tyre from Hankook said it is one of the best tyres in the wet they have ever been able to drive on. If you have a look down the main straight as well, look just how much water they are pumping out of those rear tyres.
I have to be pretty happy with how they're working right now, Cameron, with only that one small spin. So it's looking good at the moment for the BRM drivers for the race win. They're winning the battle, but not the war, because Rowe has opened up that lead to be above 50 points. And with 25 points available for the next 2 races, that'll be a lead that Cameron Shields just will not be able to reel in with these last 2 races this weekend. So long story short, champion-elect at the end of this race, if it stays the way it is right now. Doing exactly what he needs to do, Nick Rowe.
But Lawson and Fallon have a 2-second advantage now over Rowe. Love is 4th. Cameron Shields is in 5th place now ahead of Lewis Leeds. Completing the top 6 back to Everingham, Ryan Sewell. Zach Bester, former Aussie racing car competitor, another one of the young talents coming through in this category in season 2017.
Think back to Bathurst, the first, 5 hours of that race were wet, and Everingham's had a moment and slapped the wall here. Got away with it. Robust little race cars, these Megales. It's gone through turn 3 and got out of shape. Watch the top of the screen, off that curb, through the puddle, round he goes. And bang, just got it with the left front. Maybe hurt the outside of that wing as well. Did what Mazzaroli did, but with, unfortunately, more circumstances that
Almost
time.
his wheel tracks, wasn't it?
Speaking of, here is Mazzaroli and Zane Morse. Morse picking up P10. Being tucked up and behind another driver in these conditions. So tricky. Visibility almost impossible in that scenario. Morse doing a nice job here. 18-year-old from Canberra. Two-time national karting champion. Multiple state-level champion as well. Making that move up into Cam's Jayco Formula 4. That progression path that we talk about. This is a very logical step out of karting. Cam's and Karting Australia work quite closely together to make sure that there are plenty of young drivers coming through. There's been rookie tests and evaluations lately. There's a huge presence of the Karting Australia last round in the championship down at Todd Road to make sure that all the parents of the young drivers coming through know that there's a good step to take to the car racing world, fresh out of karts, and a lot of these drivers have made that move. Nick Rowe, perfect example, stepping up from karting, a lot of speedway racing as well, has raced in Formula Ford. Competed at the Supernats in Las Vegas, which is one of, if not the biggest karting event in the world. Bringing those skills back here. And with all that speedway experience, Matt, you get the feeling he goes all right in the rain.
Absolutely. So it's Rowe, 3rd position. Being chased by Aaron Love, who set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 27 on his 5th lap around. Yesterday's qualifying times, 1 minute 16. 11 seconds slower than what we saw on the drive. But everybody driving very well out there in very tricky conditions.
A couple of West Aussies in this battle for P3.
Not used to seeing rain.
No.
Especially from Karratha, anyway.
And I had a quick chat to Aaron Love's older brother, Jordan. He's racing Carrera Cup this week, and he was doing some passenger rides in the beautiful Porsche course cars that we have here this weekend. And even he was shaking his head saying, I'm getting wheel spin in a road car out there at the moment. Can't imagine what it's going to be like in a Carrera Cup car, or for his little brother here in Formula 4. Remember, these cars weigh just over 600 kilos. So very light. Think about what it's like hitting a puddle on the highway at 100 kilometers per hour. Oh no, we've got Murdoch off down here. It's like every time I go to make a point this weekend, someone spins off. And that's a really awkward spot to get it out of.
Set down at turn 11, coming off the beach.
Hopefully can get that car moving. Aaron Love just taking that quick shortcut across. It's okay as long as you don't get an advantage out of doing that. Driving standards observer this weekend is Carl Reinley. Be watching the kids, making sure that they play within the rule book. Oh no, Cameron Shields goes off in the background, and that could just about be the championship. Overcooked it down at turn 11 in the McDonald's Formula 4 BRM. And one of the Cam's Rising Stars graduates is watching his championship hopes disappear down there in that escape road. That'll be all she wrote, I think, for the young man from Toowoomba. We nearly had 3 Toowoomba champs in 3 years. Not going to be. That is a painful 3-point turn. Make that 4-point turn if you can't get it straightened up this time. Oh dear.
It's just chewing away at the time. Is this a good 30 seconds? He's lost at the moment. McDonald 73 performing a 17-point turn to get it back out onto the circuit.
He's put up such a good challenge this year towards Nick Rowe. And it's disappointing to see it end like that from him. He slips down to P11 and out of the points.
Meantime, back at the front, it's less than a second between Lawson and Simon Fallon with 3.5 laps to go. Up towards the Virgin Australia chicane we go. They pulled out 2.5 seconds now back to Nick Rowe. Another 2 seconds to Aaron Love. He's in control at the moment.
Quick look at the mirrors. Fallon's not let him get away. He's really starting to find some confidence here with these tie attempts coming up. Oh, just skating it out to the wall. Well, the message will go out to Nick Rowe that he's got this championship pretty much done now. 67-point advantage over Cameron Shields. And if anything, this has brought Liam Lawson into P2 potential for later this weekend. Look at that, just 5 points separating the two now. It's not been a great one for Shields as Fallon nearly slices his teammate down at the hairpin. I'm not even sure he meant to get that close. Whoa. These two have history.
It's cost him some time, hasn't it? He was right on the back of car number 30. They start lap number 9.
Wow, despite that, he's just set the fastest lap of the race. Simon Fallon, these two are turning up the wick.
He's flying in that second sector of that lap. Easily the quickest of the race. They plunge through the puddle.
Here he goes, he's got a great exit. Lawson has to cover him. It was really slow in, fast out that time for Fallon. Lawson knew straight away he was going to be vulnerable. Parked that car over to the left-hand side, and we've got a great scrap. Nick Rowe just sitting back and watching this one unfold, saying, I need no part of this.
Might need to tap the brake pedal on the back straight here. Replay going through the Virgin Australia chicane.
Oh, no.
That's Ryan Saul, who almost repeated what we saw yesterday in qualifying.
Thankfully, the speeds were slightly slower, so it didn't take off in the same way that Tyler Everingham did.
Oh, man.
Although it's not far off it. Wow. Even that's quite specky. It's just, after seeing yesterday's one, you can't believe how high these cars can fly. Even he had to stretch the back just real quick, make sure everything's okay and continue on. That's your rookie of the year right there, Ryan Saul. An unassailable lead in that little mini championship battle.
What an introduction to Formula 4 racing.
Now have a look at this. Lawson has just set the fastest middle sector here. They're doing a really good job stretching this one away. Now these conditions and the extra formation lap will more than likely mean a time certain finish. Let's just see how many more laps we can sneak in here. Probably one more.
Cost him about a second now. Simon Fallon we're talking about in second position. Down to 1.5 seconds. So we're on lap 10 here. The streets of Surfers Paradise in race 1. On the F4s here today. Oh, that was seriously close.
And maybe some traffic to contend with. Sage Murdoch only a corner away. At the rate that these guys are going, they'll catch him. Lawson versus Fallon, last lap. And Nick Rowe will be the champion-elect at the end of this one.
Fallon's going to have to settle for second, but he wants the fastest lap of the race here now. Quickest of the first sector. He's not going to catch this guy, Liam Lawson. Doing fantastically well in these conditions. Past the wall and down to turn 11 on this, the final lap.
Oh, no, and we're just talking about Murdoch potentially being there. Now, watch out, Nick Rowe. You don't want to run at the back of your teammate. Oh, man. That was close. He got through. Imagine that. So Murdoch's parked it down there in the fence. A close call for the Australian Unity AGI Sport driver, but he's just 2 corners away from securing this championship. What a drive from Liam Lawson. The 15-year-old, what an absolute gun he is in these conditions. We shouldn't be surprised. He is from New Zealand after all, from Pukekohe no less. Here he comes, he'll win his 4th race of the year. He loves these wet conditions. He punches the air, great job. But it's Nick Rowe, the West Aussie, who will do enough to be crowned the champion this year. Well done to the young man from Karratha, just 18 years of age. He'll join the likes of Jordan Lloyd and Will Brown as Formula 4 champions tomorrow. That points gap now above 50, and it's all over Red Rover for the young West Aussie. And AGI Sport will have their first Drivers' Championship. Congratulations to the whole Gotch family. That's a huge effort. How about that one? Liam Lawson, 2.8 seconds up the road from Simon Fallon. Great battle between the teammates. Aaron Love, one of his best results of the year as well, finishing inside the top 5. Ryan Saul, despite that airborne moment, rounds out the top 5 in car 5. And unfortunately for Cameron Shields, he let that championship slip away. He's been so fast this year. Poor Sage Murdoch, stuck down there in the fence. He's also ripped the... trying to pick exactly what part of the car that is. That's the front of the nose cone that's come off down there, parked in the fence.
Looks like he's had contact during the race as well with the donut marking on the side of the number 4 car. He went off down that part of the circuit a couple of laps prior. 1 lap short due to the conditions, but well driven to all 12 cars out there today. Unbelievably tough conditions, and similar to what we saw with James Moffat's incident, but much slower than yesterday. Look how close that was, though, for Fallon.
the crew at AGI Sport won't have any issue fixing that up. What a great effort from these young drivers in these conditions.